we opened his bowels, and in his colon, there were 13 tiny little chiclet-sized saran wraps tied with strings, probably from his clothing, wrapped around little notes. And those little notes were written to me. In his bowels. He had eaten them. And in those notes, he wrote,
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Glam Reaper Podcast. I am accompanied here by the fabulous Tukios rep. We've got Zach here. I did get your name right. Great. That's always a good start. So we're here at the Independent Florida Funeral Directors Association, their annual convention. Tell us, what do Tukios bring?
Tukios has been in the industry for the longest time. Originally, it was for our tribute video software.
Yes, I remember that.
Showing off the loved one after they've passed on. But after 2020, we saw a need in the industry for a better website product for these funeral homes.
Okay.
Something more modern to help bring them into the modern age and really stand out against their competition, especially with the people that they were going to be servicing, like you and me.
Yeah.
That, technology is a big part of our life. So
it is.
We stepped into that. And in the 4 years that we've been doing websites, we've been privileged to work with about 4,200 funeral homes now.
4,200?
So
holy shit.
Jumped up. Yeah, it jumped up quite quick, but it's just because of the way our business model is set up. Everyone really likes it. It's beneficial to the funeral home, to the families, and to the local florists. So.
Great. And I remember actually there was a convention I was at recently. I'm not sure if it was in Florida, where one of your guys was talking about AI.
Yes.
Because obviously that is huge.
Very huge.
And kind of scary. I have talked about it as well, as most of you know. But yeah, huge and quite scary. What are your thoughts on it? What age are you?
I'm 24.
24. So he's only a baby. He's 24. I mean, you really are you're the generation that are, yes. Us old fogies are still trying to figure it out. Not doing too bad, but you guys are going to be the ones that are going to be living with it a lot more than us. What are your thoughts on it? And I know, I think the guy, he brought back his grandmother or his grandfather from the grave effectively in AI. Tell me what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I tell everyone when I'm introducing the AI features that we've developed that until the Coke machine turns into a transformer and comes after me, I think AI is moving in the right direction as of right now. But we've got a lot of different ways that we've implemented AI. So in the tribute videos, cleaning up pictures that are blurry.
I love that.
Not everyone knows how to use Photoshop, so the AI can do that.
I do not.
It'll automatically recognize any duplicates and remove duplicates for you. And now in the obituaries, down at the bottom in the guest book where families are expressing their condolences and leaving messages for family members to read, the AI will actually recognize any harmful or spam messages and flag that for the funeral directors to see. Wow. And then they can quickly go through and delete those. And it'll even look through the pictures and make sure that everything in the picture is family friendly and something you want on your loved one's LA.
And while that sounds crazy, I mean, if you're following this podcast for a while, you'll know that there is the craziest out there. And I have seen, because we have built websites for some of my families, and I have seen spam and crazy stuff getting it. And it really is hurtful.
Yeah, it is.
The family is really, really
hard. I
hard.
had a lot of calls from the funeral homes just, beside themselves that family that they love or even their own family would have something like this appear on their orbit. One other, I guess the last thing that we've done to implement AI is we've taken the most recent model of the best AI engines and added in our own code into it so that funeral directors can actually use AI to type out an obituary for a family. So they can take a pre-written obituary and plug that in, and AI will expand on it. And you can actually change the tones of it. So if you went in and you wanted to make something that had some Irish slang that people would recognize, you can tell ChatGPT, or I guess our AI tool to do that, and it'll type it out.
Yeah. No, it is pretty impressive. It has definitely helped me in my communications. I will still always say tomato, it'll never be tomato, and AI won't get that at all. But, and this is interesting because last night in my hotel room, I threw on a movie while I was working, and guess what movie came on?
Transformers.
Oh, Terminator.
Oh, Terminator. Okay.
And it was the new one where Arnold, like I grew up on Terminator, so it's great. It's the latest one, I think, where he's the good guy in it, which I was like, no, all right, Arnie.
Whatever. It takes
It kind of does. And Sarah caught, anyway, whatever, we won't get into that. But like, tell me one negative thing that you foresee with AI.
One negative thing that I've seen with AI just all over?
Yeah. Well, in the death space.
In the death space. Honestly, I can't think of anything that I've had an experience with in the death space with AI. The only, I guess, big problem that I've seen with AI and that a lot of people are really nervous about is how easy it is to make something look very, very realistic. I guess that could probably, be implemented in the death space if someone had bad intentions, uploading a very realistic picture of the deceased that wasn't real, that was fabricated by AI. But that's the biggest, I guess the scariest thing that I've seen with AI is just, you don't know what's real and what's not anymore because it's that good.
That is true. That is right. Okay, we will leave it on that now. Go and watch Terminator. Thank you very much, Matt, for sharing your time with us here today. Good luck. So, hello and welcome, Earline. Earline, I love that name. Well, my name is Jennifer, Earline. So tell us a little bit about your fabulous self.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be here. Jennifer, I am Earline Blumhagen. I am a licensed funeral director. I am a licensed pre-planning specialist, as well as being a concierge coordination high-end printing firm. Yeah, Jab Designs Orlando. We serve on the board here as well.
Wow.
We're the secretary for the independent funeral directors. And what an honor.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
What an honor it is to serve funeral directors and firms all across the state of Florida.
Yeah.
Independence.
Yes, I know. I love that.
Independence.
This is my first time here and I'm loving the family vibe. It's been very, very
Exactly.
cool. It's lovely. Very, very cool.
Beautiful location as well, right?
Very nice.
Oh,
and it's going to be the same here next year as well.
Every year we've been here for the last 4 or 5 years.
Oh,
4 years.
Wow.
3 years? 4 years?
Okay.
Don't quote me on that one, but we've been here.
Very nice.
Yes.
And how long have you been involved with the independent funeral director?
I've been involved now 3 years.
Okay, very nice. And how long a licensed funeral director?
I've been licensed now 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. You love it.
I love it. I've been in the industry 28 years.
Well, she doesn't take a day over 28.
I know.
So started as a sperm.
I like that one. I still that one.
Okay, very
yes. Now we're in Florida, so it's warm.
It is warm. I mean, I need to get me one of them as an Irish person of large sweating buckets, buckets.
Yes.
So, so tell us, you've been in the business for 28 years doing the print.
Sir,
love this.
Yes.
Print is so important.
The high-end print work, but more importantly, before we get there, it's the coordination of everything that needs to happen to get in that seat, to get that family in that seat. So we're serving families, we're serving the firms that serve the family.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful thing. And I like to liken it to a wedding coordinator.
Okay.
A bride traditionally will take up to a year, right?
Yep.
She will, because she knows she has to cross the T's and dot the I's. We do that in 2 to 3 days.
Wow. It's craziness.
Yeah.
It's like weddings on crack.
Yeah, well.
It's like weddings on crack.
Okay, we'll scratch the crack part, but yes.
So you love it. And what made you move from doing that to becoming an actual licensed funeral director?
I did not move.
Oh.
I added to my portfolio.
Wow. Yeah.
Yes, it was not a move.
Okay.
Jab Designs, and every funeral director knows that.
Yeah.
Jab Designs is my heartbeat, serving the families and serving the firms that serve those families.
Yeah.
But we wanted to be able to bring a more intensive service to the table for both the firm and the families.
Okay.
And that's why we decided to go back to school and study and become a licensed funeral director so that we could better serve with understanding. That's what it's all about.
Very good.
Good. You got to get yourself a good understanding.
You do. You do. So, because we actually... So I myself am a celebrant.
Okay.
And also, if you like, a wedding coordinator, planner.
Absolutely.
Up in New York, but we just got down here So we totally agree with you on everything you've said.
Yeah.
It's so important to understand the industry. And so many people come into this business not understanding it, but thinking they're going to sell.
Yes.
And they just don't understand.
And it starts with the love for those families.
Exactly.
It always goes back to the family. Everything does.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important that we understand that as a profession, but also we learn how to communicate that to community.
Yeah.
It all goes back to the family. It's about serving family and serving those firms that serve those families.
Yes. And I love what you said earlier when you were explaining to me about, how you meet Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
And it might be originally to talk about the order of service and the print.
Yeah.
But how you get involved in the other aspects to allow Mrs. Jones to be present in the moment. I think that's what it's about.
I think that's so important. When you think about what a family goes through to get to the point where we're at the chapel, we're at the event, we're at the church, or wherever we're going to hold this event. Girl, this sweat got my glasses falling off my face. Okay, so anyway, we're at the event, and Mrs. Jones is distracted with what's next.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to call. Oh, is she going to sing? Oh, or we forgot the CD.
Yeah.
I'm updating myself now. We forgot to contact the sound person or what have you. And so the whole idea with that serving the family and serving the ferns that serve the family, they don't have to worry about that. She could be in the moment. She could celebrate her husband's life and legacy with the spirit of excellence.
I love that.
Yes.
Very good. I love that, Earline. Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank
joining
you.
us.
Yes, sweaty and but don't miss next year. Don't miss next year.
It.
IFDF, Independent Funeral Directors of Florida. We love to see you. We love to meet you. And just thank you for listening.
Hello, Darrell, and welcome. What brings you to the Independent Funeral Directors?
I'm here to learn more about the different businesses that support the industry.
Okay.
So the cast companies, the fluid companies, and
Just go into the facts.
It's okay.
stuff of that such. And just to learn more about the people that help support us as we support families.
Okay. So you are training to be a funeral director?
Yes.
Okay. What made you go into this field?
The service to people.
Wow.
I'm very compassionate about community service and serving the community. And I think being a funeral director is one way that I can do that.
Wow. And have you done that? Have you had any experience in funeral homes yet? Yes. You have. Did you love it? Yes. Okay, very cool. And very excitingly, you won a scholarship.
I do.
Wow. What happened? How did that come about?
So actually, my professor sent the scholarship to all the students and telling us to apply. And I just went forward and applied. And here we are.
Here we are. But this is great. Well, congratulations. I'm sure you'll make a great funeral director, and we wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
This is Tyler from Repose. Tyler, tell us what brings you to a funeral convention.
Well, aside from all of the interesting things going on here,
Nobody's dead. Everyone's okay. We're fine.
Repose is a online funeral planning tool for families, and we help connect them with funeral homes that best fit their needs. Tell them about all the, information about that funeral home, what cultures they serve, religions, pricing information, and then sort of seamlessly connect them. So we're here to talk with some of the funeral home relationships, nurture those and make some more friends along the way.
Very good, because it's all about friendships in this business. So it's kind of, for people who don't understand, is it kind of like a Yelp?
Yeah, it's sort of like a Yelp or like an Airbnb or something like that.
Okay.
Angie's List is another one I've heard a lot. But yeah, we want to provide a really familiar experience for anyone who's used to sort of basic online browsing. If you're someone who shops on Amazon, you'd be able to figure out Repose and connect pretty quickly.
And can you plan the entire funeral?
You can. We're working on ways to make that even quicker for people who are into, expedience. But we've had families do it in under 5 minutes, and then families take their time and really go into the details.
Okay. And when the funeral is planned, then they take it to their chosen funeral home, or?
Yeah, so the idea for us is, Kelly Blue Books or any of those other auto type things where you have all the information when you show up to a dealership. You want to be an informed buyer. So you want to make sure that both parties are equally informed. There's nothing hidden. There's nothing unexpected. And then the funeral home will contact you after you've reserved. They have 24 hours to do that. You've not seen anyone take 24 hours, but they'll follow up with you. You're not paying on our site. That's very important for us. Okay. You're figuring out the precise details of your funeral before you ever contact the provider.
Okay, very good. And then they go in, meet with a funeral director.
Exactly. It's much the same process. We just want to give you the tools to make the best decision possible.
Very good. Well, we like that. We like to have the tools. That is great. And are you in Florida just at the moment, or?
Yeah, right now we're just in South Florida. So it's Miami, Broward, Palm Beach counties.
Okay.
But that should change pretty soon. So
very good.
More to come.
We'll watch this space. Thank you very much for joining us, Tyler.
Thank you for having me.
Hello. Now, what is your name? Crystal. Crystal. Yes. Crystal, you have a very important job.
Yes, ma'am.
At the Independent Funeral Directors Association.
Do I?
Very important. From what I hear, you are part of the regulation team. Am I right? Okay. Regulation, massively, massively big for those, because people who listen to this are non-funeral directors and funeral directors. So we always got to kind of be clear. Yeah. And it's important, I think, for because I'm not a funeral director, licensed funeral director, but I'm in the space. And I always think well, what would I want to know? You know, when my mum's going through this process, or my dad or whatever, you want to know. So regulation, it's interesting. In Ireland, we don't have regulation.
Really?
I know. You don't have to be licensed.
Okay.
Now, there's a lot of states in America. One of the things I find hilarious about America is the United States that are not united at all.
Yes.
So one state can be totally different.
Correct.
Okay, so you're in Florida.
Yes.
Tell me about Florida state regulation.
As far as there's a range, so there's the regulation of the pre-need side, there's a regulation of the cemetery side, there's for the funeral homes, and then there's also regulation for the individual licensees. I don't know what's different but us from state to state. We kind of have similar regulations.
Yeah.
It's just the way everybody goes about it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know how there's no regulation in
Ireland,
but there's policies and procedures.
Yes. So there's an association.
Yes. So our regulating statutes of everybody's familiar: 497 Florida statute and 69K, the Florida Administrative Code. Everything for our division is regulated under there. We're all trying to follow that to the T, but we're also trying to work with the industry to make changes and options. And so that's why we're here at this convention, just to foster good working relationships, listen to what we can listen to. Hopefully you hear what we have to say. We got a board meeting here today. That was interesting for everyone to be able to see. So you got to kind of see the side of the regulation. We don't know if every state has a board. They may have a committee or something, a panel. I don't know. But that's how we do it here.
Yeah.
And we just kind of try to make it seem like it's all for the benefit of the consumer.
Yeah.
That's what
it was very interesting. And for me as an Irish person, it was a bit like a Judge Judy. I was like, oh my God.
It can be intimidating if you're not used to it.
I'm not used to it. And also just, you kind of assume, we're just going to talk about quote unquote boring funeral, but it's not.
No.
There was a lot of life stories given today.
It's like a vetting process to make sure we try to bring in the most competent and people with integrity.
Yeah.
And ethics.
But then I also saw, I think it was you, we may not name any names or anything, but there was somebody there who seemed to have gone through some difficulties and had a criminal record or like a fresh, like a one only time.
Okay.
And, that they had to, they were applying for something and they had to press pause because the committee were like, if you get a denial, it's on your record forever.
Yes.
I mean, I was like, oh my God, it's so intimidating.
But they gave her options.
Yeah.
That was a great
thing.
So,
and she did accept the options. Yeah. But I saw you comforting and
yes. I just wanted to make sure, no matter what happens, we all people. And I know that was upset for her.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I felt it.
I spoke to a guy that was outside he was just in charge of the auction. And he said, God, people were leaving crying. What's happening in there? And I was like, don't worry. It was all fine. But it's a very emotional. And as somebody who, I'm living in this country now, I've had to go through the visa process. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things you got to do, and sometimes
it's like in life is put out there for the world.
Yeah, and it was like I felt for her and for the others who were standing in front of this panel, and it was like these people are deciding your life. I mean, that's how I felt, like trying to get my visa in America. I was like, oh my God. So how do you deal with that? Like, do you?
I
I try to keep it separate, but I'm a person in emotion. I feel for the license. I just try to make sure I stick to the rules and the regulations. And if there's any wavering green space, we hope for the best and put it in the hands of the board.
Yeah.
So whatever the outcome is, the goal is to push everyone forward in a positive direction.
Yeah.
Make sure they get licensed, make sure everyone's following the rules. And that's what I wish for everyone.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, while it's not life and death, it is a little bit,
Yes. If that's your passion, if that's what you want to do, don't give up on it.
No. And I mean, there were things brought up like, hang on, step into the camera.
Okay.
There were little things like reckless driving and stuff. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I would never have thought of, somebody could be driving in a hearse. And I'm not saying the reckless driving.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, like,
it can affect your professional life. That what you do in your personal, yes, it's important. Yes.
I mean, sometimes you might think, I'll just go to this happy hour. I mean, and I've seen the things online where somebody pops into a Burger King or something like a drive-through with, and like, this is what the public sort of see. And what I always hate, and with my podcast, is funeral directors can often be pitched as the bad guys. Yeah. And there are so many good guys. That one bad case, like somebody stopping in a Burger King, a body in the back.
Yeah, that's not the history of everyone in the total.
It's not the norm. It's not the norm. So that's why I try and sort of, let's talk about these negative things, but like, guys,
we can address them.
Exactly. As know that 95% of funeral directors would not go to a happy hour when they've got a deceased in the back.
Correct. Lord, we hope that never happened.
Yeah, but it's so interesting. It was really interesting this morning, I have to say.
Glad that the IFDF convention was able to house us.
Yeah.
Everyone has been pleasant. It's been a heckable place to visit.
Really nice.
People are nice.
Yes.
The vendors
very family orientation.
Yes. Yeah. And a great place. But it was good for everyone to see what the board does live in action.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you so much for the work you do. Thank you, Crystal. You're fabulous.
And thank you. Have a good one.
I'm here with the executive director.
Executive
Director. Heather. Heather, thank you for having me and the Glam Reaper inviting us in. You do a lot of work. This is a big deal. This is kind of culmination of a lot for you.
The whole year.
The whole year. It has been, as far as I'm concerned, from what I've seen, it's been very family orientated, there's not like so much salesy going on the floor, which I love. Tell us a bit about how long you've been with them, how it started, how it's going.
Well, I will say that I'm super proud of the strides that we've made in the 5-year tenure that I've been here. I came into this role right when we were coming out of the pandemic. So I had to service a lot of hotel contracts that I had no part in selecting the hotels. And so for the first couple of years of my tenure, I kind of struggled along with these enormous conference hotels that made us feel kind of spread out and cold. And, and here, when I stumbled upon Hammock Beach, when I started to try to make my own decisions and find a place that made us feel like we were coming to a place where we could be together with our families. These hotels that we were going to before were so corporate and stale and didn't have activities for children. They didn't have on-site restaurants. They didn't have all the family-oriented activities that I know our people deserve. Yeah. They work tirelessly 365 days a year. They never get a family vacation. And having kids myself, I know how important it is to have that downtime. So I set out to create a family vacation conference to find a place that had not only 1-bedroom accommodations, but 2, 3, and 4 to make it more affordable for families if they wanted to split the room with another member or friends or bring their grandparents so the children can have supervision while they're conferencing, So I tried to be very mindful of how we can grow our conference, but create an environment that people will want to come back to.
Yeah.
And that people will find the ability to relax.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
I chose Hammock Beach as also an independently owned and operated property. So I was immediately drawn to their values, which matches our own. And it's been a joy now this is our 3rd year here, to see how many children are coming. I just asked a vendor over there, I said, is this a record number of children running around the Teresa? He goes, oh, yes. We have not seen youngins running around here in their bathing suits and everything. So that speaks to me that what I'm doing is working. And the feedback I'm getting is, we're coming back next year, right? more of an anticipatory instead of like, oh, where are we going next year? It's more like, we're coming back, right?
Oh, wow.
And so that makes me feel enormously successful.
Yeah.
And
the children are the future.
Exactly.
You know, having them running around a funeral trade show might sound weird and creepy to some of you, I'm sure, but like
yeah. I mean, my children, for instance, I did not come from a funeral background.
Yeah.
So this was completely foreign to them too, but now this is totally normal to them. They love the stuff. They get all kinds of swag. They love it. But, that's a great joy to me. And to get to watch the kids grow up as they come back year after year. And then my kids are playing with the other kids. I recognize each other and they excited to see each other. So I've reached that goal.
Yeah.
And to watch the trade show continue to grow. I sell out, then I oversell, have a wait list. I have a cancellation list. So it's hard to deny that something's working, and the word of mouth, maybe. I don't really know, but we're really pleased.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely, as most of you know, like I've been to a lot of the conventions, a lot of different state ones, a lot of different national ones, some with corporate input and stuff like that. And this has definitely felt like a different vibe, for sure.
Well, nothing could have shocked me more than when a vendor told me that they go to multiple conferences where they are totally kept separate from attendees. They're not allowed at CE. They don't come to the mill functions. They're not included.
Yeah.
And I said, that doesn't make any sense. You're paying to be there and to sponsor and help improve the overall conference. Yet, why would you remove any networking possibility?
Yeah.
So that seems odd to me.
Yeah.
But I'm just thrilled that people seem to love it.
Yeah.
And we are one big happy family because they continue to come back year after year, and the new blood that comes in wants to come back.
Yeah. And we're back here next year.
Yep.
So if you're interested, if you're a funeral home, I guess you have to be in the state of Florida. You're going into the Okay. So maybe we got some news there. I don't know. Fresh off the press. If you're interested in coming, if you're a vendor, for sure. Hopefully we will be here next year and stuff. I have to say, it is a great spot, and Heather is your gal, and you can reach me, reach her. We'll leave all the information, but it's wonderful. It really is great to see it.
We're so happy you're here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I feel like I found home. We're good.
Yeah, we're girls now.
We got this. We did love a martini last week too. That's good too.
Yep. Looking forward to the next one.
Hello, Daniel. Welcome. So you are the autopsy doctor.
Yes.
Very cool name. Almost as cool as the Glam Reaper. Maybe not as cool, but almost as cool. So I've been told I have to speak to you, that you're the most fascinating man in the room. Tell me why.
Well, I've been a forensic pathologist for about 35 years. Worked for the government for most of my career. Retired from daily work in that capacity about 3 years ago. I have a laboratory I built in Tampa about 10 years ago, where I get casework sent for me from essentially everywhere. The entire United States, sometimes globally. Flown to Tampa, and as far as I know, we're the only place like it in the United States.
That's amazing. Well, now that I'm in Florida, and I do have relatives in Tampa, I might come and visit if I can. Maybe we can, because I am definitely very interested in this. One of my good friends at home in Ireland is an incredible embalmer, but we talk a little bit about the whole forensic side of things, and it's something that's always fascinated me. I wouldn't be able for it, but it's something that absolutely fascinates me. And growing up, like, I always watch all the true crime dramas and everything like that, and you can literally make or break a case. You can literally make or break, like, get people guilty to be innocent, guilty. Like,
it goes both ways.
Yeah,
it's just the truth is the truth. So I mean, I've had cases where cases initially viewed as something benign, like an accident, and we do a second autopsy and we found homicides. And we've had the opposite direction, where the family thinks something bad happened. The original pathologist thought something bad happened, namely someone hurt someone, and it turned out it was actually natural disease that had nothing. So we saved those from being, second victims, basically.
Wow. I mean, it must be so rewarding, to...
Oh, yeah, I know. I started in clinical medicine. When I first started my career, I was in anesthesia.
Right.
And I shifted gears, and part of the reason was in clinical medicine, I kind of thought anesthesia is not necessarily part of the best category of this, but point is, I like reading the end of the book.
Yeah. Got it.
I like that things have happened and then I get to figure it out. I don't have to experience that process so much as I give some closure to the families. It's some of the best conversations I've ever had with these families when I'm done with the case and I know what happened.
Yeah.
It's a very unique area.
Yeah. And it must feel rewarding when you do. I guess, I don't know if you deliver the news to somebody or like, I don't know how it works, but, when somebody who has maybe been on death row, I'm just going to use as a very dramatic example, but somebody who has been convicted and suddenly you have this, without doubt, truth, like from the autopsy that they were innocent and that they had nothing to do with it. That must be an incredible.
Well, the reality is in forensic pathology, when I would handle cases, let's say homicide, for example.
Yeah.
Rarely does it ever happen that the pathologist identifies the perpetrating.
Yeah.
That's usually not. We see that sort of thing on TV.
Yeah.
It suggests somehow that the pathologist. No. That's not what happens. So if I say, for example, this person sustained these gunshot wounds or these stab wounds or was strangled, that's what happened to the person. That's why it's a homicide.
You don't know.
But the details about how and why it's that person, it's usually not in my camp. So that said, there's times where individuals who are on death row or in prison might want someone to take a second look at that original investigation and or autopsy and say, hey, they said this, does this make sense? And I do a bit of that. I'm trying to be more active in things, for example, with the Innocence Project, kind of give some time to help some of these things because there's really not a lot of help out there, to be honest with you.
There is not.
No.
Especially at the moment, there does seem to be more of an accusatory sort of, as opposed to let's help each other and help the community and stuff. And from what I hear, that Innocence Project is a wonderful, I don't know it personally, but I've heard that it has gotten a lot of people out of jail and out of prison. And,
the worst thing you can do in forensic pathology is make a mistake where you create a second victim.
Right.
So if you call something a homicide and it's not, then you potentially create a second victim.
Yeah.
So your certainty level on something like that is just so to the degree that everything reasonable has been excluded. You've done due diligence and you've clarified that there is nothing else out there that's going to have been more relevant than those findings you had that suggest it's homicide.
Yeah. And now I will say a little birdie spoke to me and said that I needed to ask you specifically to speak about, there was a famous case, the Murdoch murder that you did. So that was on Netflix, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. There was talk a little bit about that, or?
Well, I know the outcome and I know it's already been put out there. So what happened was Stephen Smith was the young man who was found on a highway. And years later, as all of this was going on with the Murdoch situation, they wanted another look at that case. And so in my career, traffic accident investigations, trauma investigations like that, that's kind of my area.
Yeah.
And it's an area that many forensic pathologists, frankly, don't spend a lot of time in, nor are that interested in it, because I'm very much focused on like actual mechanisms of what happened, not so much as many forensic pathologists will say, well, they died from multiple injuries.
Yeah.
But that was a very interesting case. I didn't go, when it was all said and done, they drove down to my lab, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division brought him to my lab. We did the case. I was able to then give them my opinion. Interestingly enough, it was communicated not through me. It was communicated through another pathologist locally that was working with a law firm.
Oh.
Which sort of portrays it as if they did the autopsy. I did.
Oh.
But I really probably shouldn't talk about it too much, because in my capacity now, when a family hires me to look at a case, this is literally it's a contract with that family and me that unless they say to me, hey, we want you to talk about it, it's out there.
Yeah.
I
understand.
It's not. I can only say that it's not that specific situation with him was not as nefarious as it may have been portrayed.
Yeah.
But nonetheless,
Yeah.
in all fairness to the family and all involved, I really have. But that said, I've got a whole host of cases that I've got families that want me to talk about cases. So, and there's a lot of those. Either that because they're homicides that were never followed up on, or other side of the coin, the ME thought it was a homicide, someone's paying the price, and guess what? It's not. Stuff like that.
Wow.
So there's all kinds of variety in what we do, but it's very fulfilling.
Yeah. Can you tell us just sort of because I'm sure, and I know you talked about potentially doing your own podcast, and I actually would love to maybe you can dip your toes in and we'll do an episode together where we do get people to call in. Maybe we'll do something like that because there's another funeral director who she does lives on social, so maybe we'll work that. We'll chat about that again. But to finish us up, is there, I don't know, a case that sticks out the most for you, either where it was the most outrageous or you felt the most impact, or just give us a little taster.
All right. Now, here's the most outrageous one, I would say, is a man died in prison, right? Okay. He'd been in there for decades. He went in when he was an older teenager I believe it was for a murder, but nonetheless, he was in prison. One day he calls his family and he says that he thinks that they're trying to poison him, the food, the water, and a lot of things like that. And he makes a statement to them that when and if he dies, he wants a second autopsy. That was the verbiage, second autopsy, which was very odd. But nonetheless, I talked to the family and I said, well, here's the thing, because he had already died. I said, an ME is going to be handling this case. I would have full comfort with them. They're board certified. I'm sure this will all work out. I don't really just think it's a good idea to incur the cost of a second autopsy. So they said, well, talk to the original pathologist. And so I did. She says, please do this autopsy because the family's really not, they think that somehow we work with the police. They do not work with the police. But nonetheless, I said, fine, I'll do this case. So the family had me do the autopsy. Well, this gentleman was extremely thin, tall, extremely thin. And as it was, when I did the autopsy, I found, which unfortunately I find quite a lot, which is many medical examiners essentially do not look at the bowels. So they did not open the bowels. And in a skinny guy like this, you'd kind of want to know what his intestines look like, because maybe that's why he's skinny. Mm-hmm. Well, we opened his bowels, and in his colon, there were 13 tiny little chiclet-sized saran wraps tied with string, probably from his clothing, wrapped around little notes. And those little notes were written to me. In his bowels. He had eaten them. And in those notes, he wrote, they're poisoning the water. He was mentally ill. And he wrote these notes. And he believed all of this, of course, because he's delusional. Yes, it's real. But as it was, that was his cause of death. Because, yes, he did die from dehydration and starvation. And why did he die from this? Well, it wasn't because they were doing any of these things. The same thing they told the family. No. So a week later, I'm literally at a national meeting and I presented this case. And I told my colleagues, this is why even the most mundane, you think a certain organ system is not going to be as relevant. Look, you're there. Just look.
Yes.
And that case is obviously likely never to happen again to anyone. But for us, his cause of death is due to this. It's in fact a natural death, in that ultimately it was due to his underlying mental illness with delusions. Mm-hmm. But that was probably the craziest case I've ever had.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
When you opened that first nose, you must have been
and they were very well written, very neatly written.
Yeah.
But
he obviously knew. He'd obviously just well done his research, because he obviously knew you were going to open the bowels.
That's just it.
Yeah.
He knew that they were a second autopsy. So somehow,
he knew exactly
how he would know that, I do not know. But wow, it's a common factor. In fact, I will tell you, probably every second autopsy I've ever done, I don't know that I've ever encountered a case where they actually did open the bowels prior to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find that on second exams. And this is where some of these homicides have panned out. What they're originally called, say, accidental drowning, for example, is that neck dissections don't always have AIDS. So sometimes they don't look closely and they miss things sometimes. So, yeah, I mean, I used to say that, if somebody is handled by a medical examiner or coroner, that it's highly unlikely a second autopsy is going to show anything. But I have a different take on that now.
Yeah.
And I also think that when you do an autopsy secondarily and you see good work, it's nice to call them and say, hey, FYI, that was a really nice job.
I love that.
And I think I do that. I get permission from the family.
I love that because as a professional,
we all get feedback.
As a professional, you've got somebody who's been hired to second check your work.
Yeah.
And that's an uncomfortable feeling as is. And it's so true. We don't.
Yeah, and it's not adversarial by any means.
It's
not at all. It's not. Even when these things come up where you find other things, I have so many cases where I literally, again, family permission. I have a conversation. We talk about it. We share data. That's what professionals do.
Thank you so much for joining us, Daniel. This was amazing.
You're welcome.
And I think we definitely need to get him on maybe a live or a regular podcast episode. But this was so interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
All right. Appreciate it.
So therein ends day 2, technically, of the funeral. Oh my God, I'm so tired. The Florida Funeral Directors Association, the Independent Florida Funeral Directors Association. This was great. I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I did. And we'll talk to you soon.